My name's Emily Benita, and my experience of mental health, I suppose, started when I was very young. I remember consciously being aware of not feeling right, I think when I was about 8, and as soon as you start getting into the chronology, it starts to get weird. And then the first time that I ever spoke to a health professional, I was 13 and got diagnosed with unipolar depression, and I then went on various sort of herbal kind of remedies. My mum didn't want me to have the fluoxetine Prozac that was prescribed to me, which is fair enough, because when you actually read the small print at 13, being told, you know, being given something that is meant for people who are 18 years and older. I've been in counselling on and off since I was 12. I'm in counselling now, it's amazing. And yeah, I suppose depression is such an umbrella term. I also had an eating disorder, and all the various kind of neurological things, migraines, thought fog, cloud fog, social avoidance, a whole gambit of various different things that make it very hard to function, essentially. And today is an okay day. So. I have to think very carefully. What I've learned, in particular in the past couple of years, is getting exactly the right level of stimulation. Because sometimes I think all I need to do is just stay in bed, and then it's 8 days later and I haven't spoken to anyone or left the house. And then other times I'll think, oh great, well, connect with people, be with people, and then I'm so exhausted from doing that sort of face-to-face socialising that I'll just fall right back into. So trying not to be kind of constantly out and engaging with people and doing things and starting projects and not seeing them through, to then only crash, and neither of them, I think, neither extreme is fully functioning, and I'm still kind of trying to find that balance. So in terms of how I consider my daily activities, like that's always at the forefront. To maintain the balance, awareness is absolutely key. I'm in counselling. I have a fantastic counsellor, and I've been seeing her in particular for over 2 years, 2.5 years. She's incredibly insightful and has a very kind of emotional, almost physiological way of actually feeling things with me, but safely. I don't take medication anymore. I took it for about 2 years, and it was incredible. It really helped. I found a stable platform that I could stand on, and it was as if I was looking at my life from a completely different perspective that I didn't know before, and I didn't feel so much a victim to my moods. And I thought, oh, okay, I can see the actual lay of the land here. I can understand and accept how this is and start to move things around. It's frustrating because you tend to just kind of slip into sort of analogies and cliches, but in trying to get people to understand and empathise, you have to speak from their own experience, not yours, because yours is too alien to them. You have to try and hook it somewhere, but it's constantly like, it's not quite like that, it's not quite like that. But the awareness is key, and not just in yourself, but in your support network around you. And I'm so incredibly blessed and fortunate and just ridiculously lucky in the support network that I have. I talk a lot about my mental health, but it always stops me sort of dead in my tracks when I consider, oh, it's a mental illness. And I've seen recently that in equal opportunities forms, it says, do you consider yourself to have a disability? And I've always ticked no. But recently I started to think, well, what's the one thing that is either the green light or the red light in terms of whether I do something? And it's like, well, it's whether I'm depressed or anxious or some kind of behavioural symptom that is in effect of those conditions. I never really consider myself as having a condition. It's just so part of my life. And I found that what was helpful was not thinking about getting rid of it completely, but to consider it something chronic and that I can manage. So in terms of episodes, I find it difficult because my brain is actually wired differently. It's as if a different circuit comes into play. So it's hard to get the two circuits talking to each other, that's the whole problem. So when I actually discuss times when I'm not depressed, discuss times when I was depressed, when I'm not depressed, there's something kind of missing. It does feel like there's a gap. I suppose there are a few times that really stick in my mind. I remember the onset of when I was, and I think a lot of it was probably hormonal in terms of puberty, like when I had my first really bad bout, in which I'm conscious of remembering it being a bad bout and thinking, I think I'm depressed. I was about 12 and I stopped eating and I stopped sleeping. So I lost a lot of weight quite rapidly in about 3 or 4 months. And people started to notice, and that's the irritating thing, and I think particularly being a young teenage girl with an eating disorder, people will notice things physically because people are constantly looking at your body and telling you what to do with it. That's just unfortunately still our lot as women. It's not your body, it seems to be everyone's. And my mum noticed, and we went to the doctor, and I got, I ended up just sort of chatting to my doctor, who just simply asked, how have you been feeling? And it all just kind of spilled out. And I'll never forget the look on my poor mum's face as I was saying all of this stuff. I actually did incredibly well at the very beginning of university because I was so used to feeling completely alone that leaving home and living with strangers was completely fine. There's this bizarre thing that somehow, because you're constantly worried about the worst things that can possibly happen, sometimes the little things are completely insignificant and you can just glide through them. And I think that's where swan syndrome comes a lot, where you appear to be completely settled and calm on the top, but underneath you're absolutely going like mad just to be able to move and to maintain this sort of image. But I was absolutely fine. My housemates, the next day were all in tears, missing home, and I just thought, well, this is great, this is a chance to start again. And then, again, up and down completely throughout university, wasn't taking anything, various scrapes with hormonal contraception that definitely didn't help. Hormones are just not good for me at all. Mental illness in the workplace is just, I don't even know how to start to frame it, but personally, I can't help but be vocal. I wasn't for a long time. When I first got diagnosed, I kept it a complete secret, and then it took about 4 years before I actually told anyone outside of my immediate family. And after that, something just snapped, and I thought, this is incredible, because it gets you back to your authentic self, just being actually able to say, this is what is happening to me at this point, just that honesty. And it's surprising how many people do actually take that really to heart. I think people can't help but respond to something genuine, just on a deep level, you feel it. But I understand, and it breaks my heart that a lot of my friends, people I know, people I never met, it seems to be the trend that people can't speak openly about this. My advice to someone who'd be coping with something similar, I can only speak from unipolar depression, a heavy dose of anxiety, recovering from an eating disorder, which is a fair basket. I suppose what I would say is you're not alone, and you'll be surprised that if you speak out about it, how many people will say, I understand, and you're not alone. Also to bear in mind that you may actually, even though you may not feel that you're coping, you may appear that you're coping, that you're not even coping, that you're just functioning perfectly well, because all of your energy going into appearing as if you function actually pays off better than you realise, so people may not even know that there's anything wrong, which is frustrating because you want people to pay that attention and see the small signs. But nobody is a mind reader. You can't even understand what's going on in your own head. Just talk to someone. Counselling in particular, I think someone that you can talk to and who will listen and is able to provide counsel and provide guidance, because that's essentially what they do. They don't tell you to feel one way or another or drag up feelings just to leave them suspended there. You actually manage to process things that just haven't been processed properly, to give you some sense of just space and calm. The biggest breakthrough, I think, for me was understanding that the opposite of being mentally ill and being depressed was not happy. The opposite was just being open to other possibilities, because that's the difference. Absolute thinking is like, this is yes and this is no and this is that and this is that, and it's so divided and it's just going to make you feel even more fractured. Life is really hard and it's okay to be tired sometimes, and you're allowed to be fed up, but the only thing you're not allowed to do is to give up.